All right, guys. Well, it's not often that we get something as special as we've got this evening. Today, I have two guests here on the show, here to talk about a series, an idea that they created that has just straight up taken wings. You've seen this property all over Cartoon Network. You've seen the toys. It's on Tubi right now, streaming for free. But we're also here to talk about a brand new comic series coming from Dynamite, and it is called Ben 10. And here with me are two of Ben 10's creators, Mr. Joe Casey and Mr. Steven Seagle. How you guys doing?
Good, man. Good to see
Good.
you.
I'm driving. I don't think this is safe or legal, but I didn't want to miss your pod.
Listen, I appreciate you risking your life for the pod. That's some dedication. I don't know if I
Man
would.
of action, baby. Man of action.
Right. So, Joe's a returning guest to the show, and last time around we were actually here talking about Johnny Quest, which is another classic cartoon property. And what's funny is like we were talking about like just the Alex Toth character designs and just all the nostalgia that comes with bringing something from your childhood to a new generation. But that's a very different thing than like something that came from your head completely being enjoyed by now another generation potentially of fans. But I want to kind of take a step back a little bit because I know that Man of Action, is I guess we would call it an ideas company. You guys have created all sorts of video games and television shows, but you all each started with careers in comics. How did you guys join up and make the move into Man of Action?
We were
Steve, Steve's
late.
better at this than me.
We were lazy. We were at Comic Con, and it was getting so big. It was half the size it is now, but it was still too big for us. And we thought this would be a better convention if we sat down and it walked by us instead of us walking by it. So we filed to get a table, and to get a table, you had to have a company back then. And so we made up a fake company. Turned out to be called Man of Action. And then because we had a booth and a fake company name, people started asking us if they could hire us to do real work, including video games and some short films. And eventually, the Matt Senreich of Stupid Buddy, Robot Chicken fame, pitching to Cartoon Network. And we pitched the show, 20 shows actually in 20 minutes, one of which was Ben 10, which they bought in the room. And there you go.
Nice. So the name Man of Action, where did that come from?
Joe Kelly. Joe Kelly is to blame.
Yeah, Joe Kelly thought of that because I think at the time, maybe we're outing him. At the time, it was as simple as Joe was writing action comics. He's writing Superman action comics, and I think he just thought that was appropriate.
Yeah,
And for some reason, we had bigger ambitions for that name. So
we also the Comic Con people, we had said Evil Genius was going to be our name, and they looked through their files and were like, "Nah, somebody's already got Evil Genius for a booth." It had to be a last minute sub, and Joe came up with Man of Action on the fly.
That's funny.
But we liked it because it's man singular of action, and there's four of us, so it's like the brain power of one man.
Yeah, we set the bar low going in.
So I was, watching Ben 10 because admittedly, Ben 10 is a little bit after my time. I think the show premieres in 2005. At that point, I'm in high school. And so while I grew up on cartoons and cartoons were like my absolute jam, the last original cartoon I remember like being hyped for ahead of its premiere was Codename Kids Next Door, which I guess was like a few years earlier. And then everything after that, one gets fuzzy. And then by the time I graduate college in like 2012, I'm like, okay, everything that's on TV now just feels dumb. Like I just feel like I don't know if I've progressed past it. The humor is just devolved or something that doesn't make it sound like everything is bad and I'm superior. But either way, I didn't feel like I was the audience for it. But Ben 10 was one of those things that kind of slipped through the cracks and I didn't know about until well, I got married and my wife, my her little brother, who just graduated high school like a year ago, he was all about Ben 10. Like by that point, I think it was on its second or third series. And yeah, he was all into Ben 10. But like I said, I at that point I'm raising a small family. I hadn't really been watching cartoons, but something I found interesting when I was going back to binge Ben 10 to prepare for this is that every episode starts with, created by man of action. And being a cartoon nerd, like there are certain creators that like stand out. Like Rugrats is Klasky Shupo and Paul Germain. And then Recess is Paul Germain. It's created by Paul and Joe, and Doug's Jim Jenkins and so on. But like you've got the show, you've got the created by credit. And I would assume that, it'd be like Joe, Steven, and Joe and everyone, but you guys kept the man of action as the creator credit. Why was it important to be credited that way?
It's a good
I think there
question.
was a thought that Duncan, our other partner, was the one who kind of brought this up early, that individuals are not always treated particularly well in Hollywood, but companies are treated better. Nobody's treated great, but companies seem to get more respect than people. And so there was some thought that if we were a company approaching these people who make the decisions, that would just seem a little more weighty and a little more legit. And also, we're not the braggart types really. So there was something nice about being anonymous and being mysterious. I never knew who created Johnny Quest was my favorite show when I was a kid, cartoon. I never knew who created it. I found out about Alex later and the Hanna-Barbera stuff. But it was a show I liked. So there was something nice about being a mysterious force that created a show you liked and not having to worry about who they actually are.
Yeah, the anonymity is pretty a protective layer too. If anything was to, fall on its face, none of us individually would bear the scars. We just pawn it off on the company name. It kind of went the other way, surprisingly. So
Positive outlook.
yeah.
So you said you pitched Ben 10 along with like 19 other ideas. Do you remember anything about those other ideas and or anything that made Ben 10 kind of feel special or apart from those?
Yeah, one of them turned out to be Generator Rex, which we also did.
They were all in that superhero vein.
There was a mandate that came from Cartoon Network that they wanted Fantastic Four for boys, and there was a unanimous decision among the four of us that boys did not want a Fantastic Four cartoon. So we made up a bunch of other stuff that we thought boys would like.
They
Nice.
were all in that superhero vein though, because that's where we came from. And that is, to Steve's point, that is what Cartoon Network wanted. They had been doing a lot of DC properties, as you probably know, Teen Titans and things like that. And the executive told us that they wanted something that they didn't have to clear things with another entity. They wanted something they could control and have creative autonomy over, which, we totally understood because we'd worked for DC for years and years by that point. So it was just our visions were aligned. And so yeah, and I think Ben 10 out of the 20 that we pitched was kind of the most direct. You kind of knew what it was right away from the name and the pitch, and he picked the right one.
Yeah, and these pitches the reason we had 20 is because we were a brand new company and we couldn't decide whose thing to pitch, and nobody wanted to blink, which you
Yeah,
shouldn't do. That's not a good idea. So we decided we'd do them in 1 minute each. You could go through as much of the pitch as you could get through in a minute, and then we just switch. So it's kind of this crazy, blast of ideas that was just happening rapid fire. They thought we were insane. We probably were insane, but also was pretty efficient for getting ideas across, and the exec knew exactly which one he liked.
I kept my pitches down to 15 seconds.
Now, how common is it for pitch meetings to go that way, where it's just like, let's throw all these ideas out? I mean, I've heard of people getting a pitch together, but typically it's for one thing, or is that am I incorrect?
Yeah, you wouldn't do this if you knew what you were doing, but we didn't know what we were doing back then. And so it kind of became a legendary pitch. Like it was so insane. We had a bell, like we rang a bell at 60 seconds and we just stopped mid sentence and switched to the next thing. And by the time the exec Sam and Tram knew what we were doing, like they were laughing at just the performance of it as much as they were trying to listen to it because it was so out of line.
Yeah, we figured, you go into these pitches and executives at these networks hear pitches and pitches, 100 pitches a day. And we figured, well, the chances of getting something bought are astronomical. So you might as well make an impression as the person in the room, so that when you leave that room, if they didn't buy anything, they would remember us and remember the procedure that we put forth, and because we had no illusions they would actually buy something. But
And also, they hear so many things that they kind of know within 60 seconds if they like it or not. And they usually don't, but then they have to listen to another 30 minutes of a pitch. So I think we were doing them a favor. And we had fully developed them. It wasn't like just one sentence ideas. So when they had questions about it, we could go back and fill it out a lot more.
I will say, like, just from watching the little bit of the show I've been able to digest over the last week or so, it's a very, I shouldn't say simple premise. I guess it's easy to get, I guess is the best way to put that. Like, a kid finds an alien device, allows him to, turn into one of 10 different aliens that will, aid in the situation, whatever situation he may find himself in. And then we've got this crutch, or the sort of fatal flaw, is that he can't figure out how to stay in the form long enough to always be useful, right? Like, and so it's like that just in and of itself is just, it's fun. And that took me, what, 10 seconds to say, but it's way more fleshed out than that. So I just think that's just a great idea.
well, that comes right out of comic books, for us. I mean, you could boil down Spider-Man in 10 seconds, but we all know that the bench is deep on Spider-Man lore and mythology, but the basic concept is very direct and very simple, and that's always going to work best. It has to
And
work on both levels. It has to be simple, but also deep if you dig into it.
yeah, Ben 10 is a little deceptive because people are like, oh, he just turns into 10 heroes. But the problem isn't that. The problem is which one do you pick and what do you do if you pick wrong? It's
Yeah.
like it's the kid in the candy store. You think you want all the candy until you have all the candy, and then that just gives you a stomach ache. So there is a built-in kind of, it's more difficult to be 10 heroes in a lot of ways than to be one.
Yeah. True. Very true. Even I was just watching, I guess the second episode, where it starts off and he is the flaming character, and he's like just sitting in the car, and he's like, why, out of all these things you could have been right now, why are you the dude with the fire on his butt? Like, like this is crazy.
Well, that's part of the fun, is it being the wrong alien for the wrong situation. I mean, that was baked into our concept, is that if he's 10 years old and he has no control, that's it's the comedy element of it all, which we always like to be there in some fashion.
Right. Now, you guys are, there's four of you pitching this comic to, or excuse me, this idea to Cartoon Network, and you've got a million ideas. You've done a bunch. You've each had freelance careers. You've done a bunch of projects for different entities. But was there like a pressure that you felt in this meeting? Like, okay, if they buy this, our lives have changed, or like did that sort of would that realization come like later? Like, okay, we've done something here.
Not only was it not on my or I think anybody's mind, we didn't know how we really got the meeting, and we didn't think there'd be another meeting after that meeting. So that was the first part. And the second part was like, even when it started going, there's such a machinery to it all that we were not familiar with initially. That until I was on a boat in the middle of the sea between Estonia and Sweden, and the boat had a gift shop, and the gift shop was half Ben 10 toys, half Estonia, Sweden stuff. That's when I was like, oh, this is a lot bigger than I thought it was. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah, it was all very incremental, because at first you get the pitch meeting, you sell the idea, then that launches on probably a year and a half, 2 years of development, which at the time, the younger you are, the longer that seems. And it felt like we would sometimes ask ourselves, is this ever going to happen? And then we did the pilot, and then that went through testing, And then they picked up the show and they picked it up for 2 seasons. We're like, oh, wow, we're going to have at best 2 seasons of something on the air that will, it's a line on our resume. It's great. And then it just keeps rolling. And we're doing other work at the same time. So it's just one of many things that we're doing at that point. And next thing you know, there's like Ben 10 roller coasters in the UK and a Ben 10 game show in Europe. And it just goes international. There's toys, there's, bed sheets, there's medical supplies, there's all kind of, anything you could think of Ben 10.
Well, and it was big here, but it was much bigger everywhere else. So it really was, once the global kind of sat in, we were like, oh, like this is as big as it might be in the US, it's bigger in Australia, it's bigger in Brazil, it's bigger in Mexico, it's bigger in Argentina, it's bigger in the UK. So that was also really interesting. It's like you're in a pot of water boiling and you don't know how hot it is until you get out, touch it again.
So when something blows up to be that big, how do you move on to other projects? I mean, I guess there's like survival, like, okay, you gotta keep bringing in revenue and all of that, and the creativity, like, okay, I just want to do something else. But does that create something where you're just like, whatever I do is not going to be as good as Ben 10, though?
Well, it opened up a lane of our career that we've been in ever since, which was animation. I don't think any of us, certainly not Steve and I, ever had any designs to be in animation. And we found ourselves in it. The success of the show begat other opportunities in that field. We sold Generator Rex after that. We got hired to do the Ultimate Spider-Man show and the Avengers Assemble show for Disney XD. So that success begat other gigs. And we just kind of went with it. It wasn't a plan at all. It's just it opened up opportunities that seemed interesting to us and seemed like they'd be fun to do. The Spider-Man and Avengers shows were perfect confluence of everything that we knew in our lives up until that point about animation, comic books, the characters we grew up with. So there was never a roadmap. It was always just, oh, here's the next thing that's cropped up and it sounds good, it sounds interesting, and let's go for it.
Yeah, we like making stuff. We've never stopped doing comics. This whole time, everybody still does comics to one degree or another. Hence the new Ben 10 comic. And we have a lot of varied interests. Like Duncan plays music. Joe's been in several bands. Joe Kelly made short films. I have a theater company. It's like we have a lot of stuff that we do, and we've kept doing all of that. I think Ben 10 made some of that stuff easier to do because a lot of it is hard to profit realize, so that it pays the bills on some of the stuff we love that may not pay their own bills. And we've been partnered up now for 26 years. That's longer than a lot of marriages. So
let's not say that out loud too many times.
Yeah.
I don't like to count the years if we can help it.
All right.
So now 26 years of partnership, you've created millions of ideas, let's call it, right? You've gotten to see so much stuff come into fruition in so many different forms of media. What keeps you guys doing it together? Why is it that, Joe's got the shades? Why is Joe not got the big head and like, all right, I can go do something else without you guys?
Well, first of all, we do stuff without each other because Joe Big Head Shades Joe, declared early on, he's like, no one touches my comic books. So comic books, even though we have a Man of Action imprint and Image prints most of our stuff, publishes it, for which we're grateful, they're done individually. Like if we want to partner up, like I've done comics with Duncan and Joe's worked with Joe or Duncan and Duncan's worked, like we partner up that way sometimes, but they're not technically covered via Man of Action. So we do have these lanes of creativity where if we're tired of everybody and we want to go do something by ourselves with no input, we can do that also. And, from time to time, we redefine what are we working on together? We're working on separately. And our company has always been split everything equally, but really focus on balancing the time so that everybody's putting in the same amount of time on the stuff we're doing. So I think that's made it much more tenable. We also started our company by doing a year of worst case scenarios. So we knew everything that could go wrong. People are like, why are you doing that? Well, because then we knew, like, there was no mystery. And if something came up, I won't say whether anything did or not, we knew what the remedy would be. And that kind of has kept us in check.
Nice, nice. So, like I said, we've got this Ben 10 comic coming out. Something that I think is interesting about it is that it's all of Man of Action, right? So, Joe, you're writing the first story arc, but according to Dynamite's press release, each of you guys are going to take, stabs, like taking different story arcs and putting them in this comic format. And so it's gonna, I don't know. I don't know how each one will feel a little bit different. I'm sure everybody has a little bit of a variation in style, but how does it feel to have like your own sort of iteration of this character and to kind of take turns and riff off of each other in that way?
Well, Steve is writing issues 4 and 5, so he's next up in the batting order. But we've all, you know, come to this together and what the approach is and what the tone is overall, even though we're taking individual stories that we're each doing and putting our own spin on it. But it's all under this umbrella of what we've all four of us set up for this comic. Um, and it's not much different than any other thing that we've done where we've gotten a room together and or got on the phone together and just collaborated and bounced ideas off each other. And once we found the right mood and the right approach we wanted to take, we all knew it. And it's at that point, it's sort of easy to fall in line. And then again, leaving room because we're individually scripting issues to still have our own style imprinted on there without sacrificing what the whole thing is.
Yeah, when Joe was kind of the main architect of, I think we should do it this way. And we were all like, that's really cool because we haven't done it that way yet. Ben 10 franchise version. And when I read his first script, I was like, oh, he's really like landed on something. Like this feels like a great Spielberg movie. If Spielberg did a superhero thing in the 80s, that it would be like this. And I loved that. But then I was like, but Spielberg also did Poltergeist, and I'm kind of known for writing weird horror comics. So I'm going to steer it that way. We did the same stuff on the show. Like we work in a room, we all agree on stuff. We would get the springboards approved with just Man of Action and the network. And then we hire outside writers or write them ourselves sometimes to, execute the stories that are approved. This is not a lot different. Like Joe said it well. We agree on the shape and the form, but it's comics, which we've all done our, decades now. I won't give years, Joe. And we have different tastes in comics. I like that Joe did the kind of comic he loves. I'm doing the kind of comic I love, but it's
Steven Seagal's network bandwidth is low.
So, okay, so it's fun to riff and have different versions of a thing, even as you're all kind of jamming together. Now, something I'm curious about, like just from, we've got created by credits on all sorts of cartoons, and then like there are people in the writer's room that like sort of get a reputation as well. Like, how much do a show's creators have to do with the final product that comes out? Is it like you develop it to a certain point and then it's like, all right, you guys get out of the way, the writers are going to handle it, or like, is there like a final approval? Like, how does that go?
Well, it's been interesting with Ben 10 because, we created the show, we developed it early on. We were, I guess you'd call us consultants because and we wrote some episodes in the first seasons. But that was, to be honest, as much as our level of experience in animation was going to allow us to do. But ironically, about 12 years later, we came back around to the property. They were going to do a new version of it, what fans called a reboot, because it was a reboot. And we came back and really ran that show. We were executive producers and we ran the writing and we're really hands-on. So it was kind of a full circle moment for us in the animation space. the cool thing about the comic book is that now we take all of that experience on the property for the last 20 years and all the lore that's been built up, and we can distill it and represent it in the medium that I'll speak for myself, is really, it's my first love, but I think it's everybody in the company's first love, which is comic books. So it's this great final distillation of everything that we've liked about the property over the years, all the different iterations. We can pull from all of it and represent it to this new audience, which is new to comic books, but they're really, the Ben 10 audience is out there and they seem to be pretty excited about this comic book coming. More excited than I expected. So we're doing our best to give them what they want, but what we think it should be, and hopefully those things align. I think they've seemed to have aligned so far with what the response has been to the previews that have gotten out and the pages that have gotten out there. People, for the most part, seem to be saying, this is the Ben 10 we've always wanted, which is great because this is the Ben 10 we've always wanted. So it's going to be a very cool thing, I think.
Yeah, the excitement for this has been through the roof. Like, I mean, we've been in this Dynamite Warner Brothers world for what's this, year 3 now?
Yeah.
And I remember when because I want to say Ben 10 was teased like with that first slate of announcements. And so ever since then, people have been like, okay, but where's Ben 10? Where's Ben 10? And then even now, I think it was originally slated to come out in like February, got pushed back a couple of months, and people are still like, where's Ben 10? To the point where I was like, okay, I don't know what Ben 10 is, but I feel like I need to go catch up before this book comes out because so many people are excited. I feel bad for not knowing. But
well, they're out. There's plenty of Ben 10 fans that'll be happy to school you. It seems like that's their life's ambition, is to, because it's
They're
great.
happy to school us.
Yeah, right. Yeah, no kidding. But it's great to see. I mean, I've seen countless YouTube videos, YouTube shorts that are people saying this thing's coming, we're excited, and really scrutinizing what they've seen so far. And we love that passion. We had that passion for stuff when we were kids and reading comics. So to see that in another audience, and not necessarily a regular comic book reading audience, these Ben 10 fans are not new to the medium, but they're not like the comic book fans that we would be serving when we were writing the X-Men, for instance.
yeah,
That's a dyed in the wool Wednesday Warrior comic book, seeped in their bones kind of reader. But these Ben 10 fans, to me, it seems like they are not dyed in the wool comic book readers. So to present this to them in this medium that we love is pretty exciting for us.
I will say like the interesting thing, because I don't know, when I think about the Ben 10 fan, I think of my little brother-in-law because that's the first one I met, right? He's 19, maybe. He's 19 now. And but he's like that generation. Like he grew up on cartoons, but he also grew up in a time where like anime and manga didn't get you picked on. And so it's like he was never a Wednesday Warrior. I bought him some of his first comics, but this is the type of thing that he'd be like, oh, wait, there's a Ben 10. Where'd you say that comic shop was? And I
Yeah.
feel like there's a lot of people like that who, have tangential connections to comics, but this is something that's going to get them in the door. And that seems really fun and exciting.
Well, let's hope so, because comic shops have had a rough couple of years, and anything we can do to help them for all they've helped us over the decades, we will do.
Yeah, for sure. Now, can we get like what's the basic premise of this comic? Is this like would you call it a reboot, a re-presentation of the concept? Like, is this good for new Ben 10 fans or potentials?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's basically it's more than a retelling. It's more than a reboot. It's the ultimate expression of the Ben 10 mythology that's been built the last 20 years in animation. Like I said, we're able to cherry pick from the best things, the things that worked well. Occasionally we'll put a new spin on something, but there's going to be a lot of Easter eggs, a lot of payoff for longtime fans. while at the same time being, new reader friendly. And it's coming together so well. It's almost like,
It hits me a lot like, when you watch the new Spider-Man movies, you go, that is really like the comic book, but it's like a movie. It's like my mom and dad like it, my younger siblings like it, everybody likes it. And I feel like this comic book is that to the cartoon. It's like the cartoon is this thing. We dig it. It was for kids. But this is like something the whole family can get into, no matter the age. It's like the mythology of Ben 10 writ large. It's still, if you like the cartoon, you'll still like it. If you wish it were a movie, you'll still like it. If you like comic books, you'll still like it. I think it's kind of all the right pieces.
yeah,
Now, Joe, you've said that, when there's a Ben 10 movie, it'll be based on this comic. Like that's how good you guys feel
that's
about
right.
what's happening right now.
I love when he says shit like that, stuff like that. Sorry.
You're good. Why do you feel like this is the sort of fertile ground or soil for that?
Well, because that was the approach that we took in, making this thing, which is like again, adaptation is not the right word, but we really went into it going, if this was a live action TV show or a live action movie, what would be the approach? And that was sort of our first North Star. And then once we sort of had a handle on that, we got into the more superhero comic book continuity aspects of it, which I think it's turned out to be the best of both worlds. But I can't imagine that and I say it now, when there's a Ben 10 movie, that this is going to be the source material. I stand by that statement.
I'll stand by you standing by that statement.
Thanks.
But it is, it's more informed. Like it is the Ben 10 if you love Ben 10, but it's like a longer view of things. It's like in the original Ben 10, the kid finds a watch, he's a superhero immediately. In this Ben 10, the kid finds a watch that turns him into aliens. He's a target of the government, of the bad guys, in a weird way of his own family, trying to figure out what the heck's going on with this thing. And that's just a very different energy. Still Ben 10, but a different way to look at it.
Nice. I love when like you can, I don't know. It seems like I don't know. I'm not a writer. I have not made like a comic or anything like that. But this idea that you can, a concept that you can like have an idea, bring it to life, and then 20 years later get like a second shot. Like, okay, well, if we were really gonna do this, as if you hadn't just done it 20 years ago, but if we were really gonna do this, like, what would we change? How would we zoom out? Like, what are the points that you can't hit, in 22 minutes that you can hit in 20 pages? Like, that's got to be fun, a fun way to like just approach ideas.
It is, but it's also, this is the history of Ben 10, right? It's like there's the original series, and then 5 years later, there's this reinvention of it for a new set of kids to get into it. Then there's a reinvention of tales using the same mythology. Then there's Omniverse, and it's a new way of looking at it. And he's older, and he's got an alien buddy. And then there's the reboot, and he's younger again, and he's back to the classics, but it's short and it's more funny. Now there's this, and he's still Ben. He's 10 years old. Gwen is 10 years old. They're on the vacation, but there's this new gravity around all of that stuff and a new reality to the aliens that's going to be surprising. And, it's the way Ben has always been. It's why Ben's still in the conversation, I think.
I mean, the advantage that we have now is that we have 20 years of perspective on the property, on the mythology, on the characters, and we're hopefully bringing that all to bear on this iteration. This is hopefully we want it to be the distillation of everything that's been cool about Ben 10, and something that's lasted 20 years. There's always going to be some blind alleys that some of the shows have gone down. We've gone down them. But again, 20 years of perspective, hopefully we'll avoid them this time. Because our goal is the perfect version of Ben 10. And
it's definitely a distillation.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's fun, like the idea that you get better, right? Like with age, with experience. I was changing a diaper today, right? We're on our third kid. And
I'm glad it was a kid.
Oh yeah, definitely. Changing an adult diaper does not seem like a fun job. Shout out to all of the CNAs out there. But uh, we're changing our baby's diaper, and we're tag teaming on this diaper because the baby has a rash. But I'm thinking about like iterations of these changes. With our first, it's like, you get through it somehow. With the second, the innovation was she's got the onesie on. Let's like wrap her hands in the onesie so she can't reach down there. Right. And by the third one, it's like, all right, we've got a trash bag here. We've got like stations. And we've got all this going into this diaper change to make it as clean and mess free as possible. But it's still a diaper. Diaper technology hasn't really changed all that much in 20 years, but we're just better at thinking through situations.
I'm not sure if I like this metaphor for Ben 10, but I get
I actually really like the metaphor. In fact, I'm going to use it in the next interview.
So not to say, well, I mean, diaper changing can get messy, right? Throwing ideas in a room where there's four people, well, four people on one side of a table, and you got network executives, other writers, people that have been doing animation for who knows how long, that are trying to say like, oh, well, this will work or this won't work, and you're like, well, this is my idea, this is my kid, right? But you're going through all these iterations of that, and now you get to come back to it like not necessarily people meddling. I guess we've got comic editors, we've got the licensor and all that, but at the core, it's like nobody knows your kid like you do, and you get another stab at it, and that's got to feel gratifying.
it's not like that. I turned in a script yesterday and I got notes today from some from the Man of Action, some from our editor. And I didn't get that. I used to get that feeling like, oh, notes. And instead I was like, oh yeah, this all makes sense. And I just did them like super quick because everybody knows what this is and knows what we do with it and knows what it should be. And we want it to be good. So that was super easy.
Nice. Now I want to show real quick some art. Courtesy of Dynamite, they sent me this press release. Here's the A cover, I believe, for
Yep.
this first issue, which is awesome. Like it does not look like it, like you picture Ben 10 in your head, and this feels like absolute Ben 10 or something.
There you go. I
But
didn't have to say it this time.
I like it. And then we've got some interior pages as well. Of course, what is happening? All right, Steven's the one with the bad internet, not me. Why?
I was going to say, it's like I'm running this slideshow because that's what I do it.
All right, I'll stop the share. I think it's just because I'm trying to do it. Oh no, that really is my internet. That's crazy.
I am the kiss of death.
All right, there we go. Now I'll share it again.
My son Johnny, who's been holding this screen the whole time, he and I were just talking about the fact that we keep moving around because of the California fires, and no matter where we move, no good internet. Like the one common factor is we just can't move anywhere with good internet. That's a given.
Yeah, I moved out into the boondocks, and there used to be like choice, like oh, you can get Spectrum or Verizon or whatever. We got Spectrum, and then we got something that looks like potatoes, and I'm like, I'm not going to do potatoes. So here we are. But these interior pages are really cool. And Joe, who's the artist on this first story arc?
His name is, well, he's on all the issues. His name is Robert Carey.
Nice.
And he is killing it.
He really is. I really love his interpretation of each of the characters. Of course, these are unlettered preview pages, but even just down to like the layouts, the expression on the faces, it's like I can tell what's happening right here. But it does feel like a sort of, so I don't know, you guys are in animation, so you've got your standard 30-minute episode, but then you've got like the hour-long made for TV pilot, and it's like this kind of feels like that, and I really like that.
Go back one cover for a second, because that one more. That's Duncan from Man of Action, who also draws. That's him drawing that variant cover.
Yeah, it's great.
Nice.
But the thing about the art style is that what I kind of realized as this comic book was sort of developing in its early stages was that when you're a kid and you're watching a cartoon, and because of the limits of the technology or whatever, or budgetary reasons, it's usually a simplified art style that's easier to animate. There's all kinds of reasons for it. You're a kid watching this and you're loving it, but I firmly believe that in your head, you're translating that simplistic art into as realistic as your mind can conjure up
Mm.
because you want it to be real. So when it came to the comic book, I thought, well, here's a chance, for the 20 years that Ben 10's been a cartoon, it's had this very cartoonish style, art style. And here's a chance to kind of match up what I feel like, a generation of kids watching it had in their head, because I certainly had it in mine, and put it on the page. And, like we were saying before, the response to that aspect of it has been great because as I've seen so many people see these pages online and say, this is what I was waiting for. This is how I've always pictured it. This is how I've always wanted to see it. So, Robert was a great choice in being able to deliver that straight up comic book. It's sort of this neo-realism.
Mm.
It's not photoreal, but it's got the gravitas that good comic books have that sell you a reality, that make you believe that these things are actually happening. And we're pretty happy with how it's been turning out.
Yeah, no, it looks awesome, and it doesn't lose, like, I don't know. I feel like a lot of times when like you change an art style, especially for something that was like super cartoony, and you push it more along the lines of realism, like sometimes it loses like a sense of wonder, or even like whimsy in some instances. Like,
Sure.
but this doesn't. Like, even just kind of going through the covers, it's like this, the idea of something like otherworldly coming and meeting you, and now you got to decide what to do with it. Like, you don't lose that energy in any of these pieces. And I think that's really cool.
Well said. Maybe you are the writer.
I wouldn't say that, but now let's see. I should be more prepared and figure out, all right, when is this book coming out and what's the final order cutoff on it?
A final order cutoff is, I believe, April 13th, and the first issue comes out May the 6th.
Nice, nice. A gentleman and a scholar. So you gotta order this. Now we've gone through this, several times. But final order cutoff. It's the last day for a retailer to order copies of this book to sell, and it determines how many copies of this book get printed and distributed to shops. Of course, if your retailer is smart, if 10 people buy the book, he's not just going to buy 10 copies. He'll buy at least 12, right? Got to have something on the shelf to sell. But if you don't pre-order this comic, there's no guarantee that there will be one at a shop waiting for you on, you said the 6th of May?
6th of May, yeah.
6th of May. So call your local comic shop, pre-order this. My shop uses Comic Hub, so I get to just go in the little app and pick which cover I want, pick as many covers as I want, and then you subscribe. You subscribe to the book. Every time an issue comes out, you'll get one. So you don't have to fight with the system. So go ahead and make your orders by April 13th, you said?
Yeah, and we're also in the era of, plenty of variant covers, plenty of exclusive covers. They're doing a blind bag promotion, of course, which will be a cover that you can only get in the blind bag. So there's plenty of collectability to this one as well, which I know is there's a market for it. So we're happy to provide.
That seems fun. I don't know what the idea for the blind bag is, but I would imagine a fun thing to do would be like, all right, each of the 10 aliens is a blind bag variant. You open up the bag, you don't know which alien you're going to get, and you got to collect them all. Like, that would be amazing. It would also be expensive, but it would still be fun.
I mean, there's only so many chase variants you could make people chase after.
There's a marketing head trying to get your number right now.
Sorry, Nick's already got my number. So, but yeah, nah, I really do like the idea of Ben 10. First of all, like, me raising 3 kids and still trying to find time to watch cartoons, I think just shows how great your ideas are. But in all seriousness, like it's stuck around. It has been here 20 years, which it
Yeah,
also
with it, it must be footnoted or main noted, an army of creative people who have really put their heart and soul into it over the decades on every conceivable level. So we appreciate the kudos, but we share them with hundreds of people who have worked very hard to make Ben 10 everything it is.
Yeah.
fair. That's very true. The because prior to sitting down and like really kind of diving deep into this, Ben 10 was one of those things that would come up a lot, like when you talk about Dwayne McDuffie. Like Dwayne McDuffie had a career in comics, ended up writing on Justice League, and also Ben 10. I want to say Alien Force is what he
Yeah,
was known for. Um, and it's like even that, how does that feel to sort of share legacy, like create something, but then sort of share legacy with other people who are able to add and iterate as well?
Dwayne put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into Ben 10. We're so grateful that he came in when he did, because we were just at that point very tangentially connected to the show. And he came in and did a great job. And he deserves a lot of credit. And the fact that he, like you said, he came from comic books, that even to me makes it even more special that he worked on our show, because him having that sensibility, that we share that sensibility. So
Yeah,
it was fantastic. I mean, it's tragic that he's not with us, but he's a fallen soldier we salute every day.
absolutely. And we liked him anyway. He's just a good guy.
Yeah.
by all accounts, I've never heard a bad word about that man. Then again, he was like 6'8", so maybe people are.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
true.
I've got to keep driving. If my signal gets too cruddy, I'll let Joe Casey round this out.
Okay, cool. We're in the home stretch. But yeah, so final to cut off is April 13th. This comic comes out May the 6th. There are at least 6 issues planned already. And I can't spoil whether or not there's more, but you should expect that there's more.
Oh, I'll
Um,
spoil it. There's going to be more. By hook or by crook, there's going to be more. We're going
nice.
to make this. We're going to make this thing last as long as it'll last.
That was quite a. You started on something and then you pulled into a rest stop.
Well, I mean,
It was summer vacation, so that's okay.
I don't want to jinx it. You know what I mean?
It's okay. There's a famous Keith Sweat song. It's called "Make It Last Forever." That's what we'll work on.
There you go.
But yeah, so Ben 10, the comic, gets to. I'm really excited, honestly, for this iteration. Like, there's been a lot of iterations. This feels like something that I've not seen. Despite the fact that most of Ben 10 is something I've not seen. But I'm really excited to read it and to really experience it in this way, alongside, a bunch of people who are going to be discovering this for the first time. So congratulations on the hit that this is already, and for being able to come back to it after this time, with a lot more brain power and smarts and wisdom and all the things. And yeah, thanks for coming and take time to talk about it with us.
No, thanks for having us, man. It was great. Great seeing you again.
It's good to see you again as
Appreciate
well. No
it.
problem.
And I like that a Mike Golden X-Men t-shirt I see.
That is, yes, I got this at Kohl's. What's funny
Nice.
is I was gonna wear my Action Comic shirt, but it's a little bit too small now. So yeah, maybe next time you guys show up, I'll have slimmed back down into it.
Fingers
Um,
crossed.
fingers,
I'm
yeah.
I'm neck up, so you don't have to talk to me.
Got you. Well, guys, with that, make sure you follow. You can go to Man of Action. They're still on Twitter. They're still everywhere. So you can follow Man of Action TV, I believe is the handle everywhere, or go to manofaction.tv to see where these creative exploits will take them. And again, go to your local comic shop and pre-order Ben 10. And with that, huge thanks to Joe Casey and Steven Seagle for stopping by. And thanks to you for listening. Stay safe, stay awesome, and read something dope today. Peace.